Part 34. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bh Yaoye 11U. Chapter 333. But Lu Bachan and his party got rid of the pursuers, left the Henan border, and arrived at Mukang in Hedong. No one was chasing them anymore. The group of people found an open place to rest. The horse was almost frothing at the mouth, and he couldn't do it if he didn't rest. Seeing Lu Bachan hiding away from others in a daze, Go Wa quietly came over and said, "General, is the person I met in Shanghai that day really my sister-in-law?" Lu Bachan nodded blankly. After a long while, he asked, "Guwa, why do you think she appeared there? Renzhou is more than 1,000 miles away from Shanghai. How did she get here?" Lu Bachan's mind has been thinking about the way Su Qingyu stood on the roadside that day, and her voice calling him. There was a constant clamor in his mind that made him unable to calm down. "General, do you miss your sister-in-law? Think. Guwa, why do you think she appears there?" Lu Bachan persistently wanted to know an answer. Although he knew in his heart that Su Qingyu must have heard the news of his disappearance and came out to look for him. But he was afraid it was for other reasons. He was very confused. "I just want to listen persistently to what others have to say. Of course my sister-in-law is here to look for you. Otherwise, it's getting cold now and my eldest nephew is also at home. Why did she leave my eldest nephew behind and come to the north? And the road is also very chaotic. In the south, wouldn't it be nice to hold my eldest nephew in a warm room?" Lu Bachan closed his eyes and rubbed his face with his big hands. "Why are you so stupid? She came over 1,000 miles away to find me. The world is so big, where can she go to find her? If something happens, what will happen to Xiaobao? What will I do?" Lu Bachan's eyes were full of tears again. "Sister-in-law must be too worried about you. Look, in this huge sea of people, didn't my sister-in-law find you?" Lu Bachan's mind was buzzing. All he could see was the figure of his wife standing on the roadside that day. Can't even swing it away. Lu Bachan buried his head in his hands. He cannot die. He wants revenge, and he wants to live. He wants to go back to see his wife alive. And Su Qingyu was already heading south. People with their families and luggage can be seen everywhere on the road. His clothes were in rags, and his hands and face were red from the cold. The old people and children, with pale faces, followed closely the large army and hurried on their way. Wu Quanzhong killed the last emperor, so that all parties in the Central Plains, whether they were loyal to the Shuo dynasty and planned to serve the last emperor as their leader, or those who were simply dissatisfied with Wu Quanzhong's cruelty, would not tolerate Wu Quanzhong for too long. No one knows how long this Liang dynasty can last. Many want to overthrow it. A big war is just around the corner, about to break out. The common people do not understand political affairs, but they also know that chaos is coming. During these years of continuous war, the people in the north were in dire straits. The decadent Zhou dynasty died, and the newly established Daliang didn't seem to be in good shape either. The common people hoped that a wolf would be gone, but a tiger would be welcomed. X.com. If he doesn't escape, he really won't be able to survive, and his family will be cut off. Are these all heading south? Xiaoduzi and others were very moved. Xiaoduzi has followed his master since he was a child. Although he is an orphan, he has not suffered much since he was picked up by his master. Along the way, I saw too many people living in such a difficult situation, and I felt very worried. Along the way, I saw many of these poor people. Some of them persisted, while others couldn't and fell on the roadside, wailing in pain. Some of the bones were left exposed in the wilderness without anyone collecting them, which is very sad. It's better to go south. Let's go back quickly. I can't bear to see it. Huabao was very emotional. Fortunately, he met Su Qingyu, and then became a subordinate of the King of Yu. Otherwise, he would have followed his former eldest brother to the north to fight for territory, and he still doesn't know whether he would be alive or not. There were so many people fleeing all the way that the group no longer dared to stop on the road, and they all ate in the car. I stopped on the road to cook some hot food, and the smell attracted a crowd of people. Dozens of people came up to grab it, but Ziyuan and others couldn't bear to do anything harsh. They were all innocent people. Seeing that they could not be driven away, several people had no choice but to break through the siege and escape. The horse and carriage were almost robbed. It's really terrible. Some hungry people have lost their humanity. And you still don't have the heart to do it? Su Qingnao and his party didn't even dare to walk on the main road, and took the narrow paths if there were them. This day, a group of people took a path and arrived at a valley. There are mountains on both sides and the road is narrow. Su Qingnao was worried that the car would not be able to pass through. There were bumps and bumps along the way. She sat in the car and staggered around. Almost vomited. "Miss, let me go to the front to check out the situation first," Ziyuan said. Since entering this valley, everyone has been worried. The mountains on both sides are steep and densely forested. If there is an ambush in the mountains, no matter who comes in, no matter how powerful they are in martial arts, they will not be able to escape. It's simply the perfect place for highway robbery. Su Qingyu nodded in agreement, and Ziyuan left in response. Su Qingyu also got out of the car. Standing on the mountain path, looking up the mountain. The trees are so tall that it is difficult to see any gaps. If a bird falls in, it will get lost. If someone is hiding here, it will not be easy to find. Su Qingyu's heart skipped a beat. The main road is not safe, and this small road is full of unknowns. Sister-in-law, I feel a little uneasy. Zayatuza came close to Su Qingyu and looked at the mountains on both sides. His heart felt hairy and he had goosebumps all over his body. Su Qingyu also felt the same way. If there is an ambush in this place, it will be difficult for us to get out. Zhang Yang had already put the arrow on his bow after hearing this, and Huabao also drew his saber. "Miss, come quickly," Ziyuan's voice was suddenly heard. Several people rushed over. Huo, the scene in front of them stopped them in their tracks, and their eyes widened. This is too miserable. Bodies lay scattered on the ground. All kinds of things were scattered all over the place. A broken carriage lay there, its wheels missing. This, vendetta. Or was it robbed by bandits? "Miss, come quickly. There is still someone alive." Su Qingyu hurriedly looked towards Ziyuan and moved her footsteps there. Ziyuan was supporting a middle-aged woman at this time. The woman was still alive. When she saw someone coming, she was holding Ziyuan's hand tightly. When he heard Ziyuan calling Su Qingnao, he raised his head and looked at Su Qingnao. Su Qingnao saw her staring at him, opening and closing her mouth, and a glimmer of light suddenly appeared in her eyes. She also tried hard to raise her hand towards her. Su Qingyu was stunned for a moment. Before her mind could react, she already stepped towards the woman. Seeing that the woman kept stretching her hand towards her, she couldn't bear it, so she reached out and held her. The woman held her hand tightly and stared at her, seemingly sizing her up. Su Qingnao suddenly felt a little sad when she saw that she was on her deathbed. Ruanyan comforted him, "Don't worry, we are all good citizens and happen to be passing by here. If you have anything unfinished, feel free to ask, and we will do our best to help you." The woman struggled to lift her upper body, which was very difficult, and finally gave up. Someone had slashed him with a knife, and blood was pouring out. Su Qingjao couldn't bear to see it. The woman suddenly felt strong and grabbed Su Qingyu's arm tightly, pulling her down with tears in her eyes. Su Qingyu thought she was going to explain something, but seeing that she was reluctant to speak, she even glanced at Ziyuan and the others warily. Su Qingjao comforted, "They are all people who follow me and are trustworthy people. The woman still refused to speak and just held her tightly. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 334. Seeing that the woman was dying, Su Qingmei felt sorry for her. Read. She signaled Yun, Xiao Duzi, and others, go around and see if there are any living people. Okay, miss. Yes, sister-in-law. What do you want to tell me? Just tell me. Su Qingmei leaned over to her and got in front of her. Seeing that everyone had left, the woman took something out of her arms with difficulty and quickly stuffed it into Su Qingmei's arms. As soon as Su Qingmei moved her hand to see what it was, the woman held her down with her hand. With tears, please, save my son, please save him. He was caught on the mountain, he can't die, can't. Okay, don't worry, I'll send someone to the mountain to find out the situation right away. The woman got her promise, nodded with gratitude, and her whole body was exhausted. Still staring at her, word by word, speaking with difficulty. Find my son and tell him not to go back, not to seek revenge, be an ordinary person, please treat him like your son, raise him up. He whispered a few words to Su Qing'an. Su Qing'an's eyes widened. Look at her. Please, save him, raise him up, I see you are a good person, thank you on behalf of my master, I will be your slave in the next life. Su Qing'an didn't come back to her senses for a long time. Seeing that she was holding him tightly, waiting for a promise from him, she was obviously exhausted, but she just refused to close her eyes. Su Qing'an nodded, okay, don't worry. My son is this old, and I will raise him together with my son in the future, just like brothers. Okay, okay, be an ordinary person, don't go back to Chang'an, don't go back. As soon as he finished speaking, his hand slipped from Su Qing'an's arm. Su Qing'an hugged her blankly, not knowing how to react. Miss. Sister-in-law. She said her son was kidnapped and taken to the mountain. She asked me to rescue him and raise him to be an ordinary person. This. Is it because his identity is not easy to show to others? Su Qing'an nodded, he is a member of the Kui family, a branch of the Kui family. You have heard about it, but you can't tell anyone else. Yes. Don't worry, miss. Don't worry, sister, I'm tight-lipped. Don't worry, sister-in-law, I won't tell anyone. Sun understood the woman's precautions just now. She was almost dead, but she was still thinking about her son. She was afraid that others would harm him again, and it was human nature to hinder them. Su Qing'an concealed the things in her arms and the identity of her master. It's not that she didn't trust Sun and others, but because the matter was too serious, and the more people knew, the more dangerous it would be. She hadn't seen the things that the woman stuffed into her arms, and she didn't know what they were. But her heart was pounding, fearing that this thing was of great importance. Su Qingmei explained half-truthfully, fearing that Ziyuan and the others would have grudges in their hearts. Seeing that they understood, she was relieved. Let's help bury the people. Okay, miss. Is anyone alive? Is there anything else? No, they are all dead. Nothing else was found. The packages and valuables were probably taken to the mountain by the bandits. Even the ornaments on the maids and guards were taken away. More than that, even the outer clothes and shoes on the people were stripped off. Not even the clothes to cover the body were left. These thieves. Like locusts. How many people did Wu Quanzhong liquidate? Even the children were not spared. Hasn't he always been a ruthless killer? The last emperor abdicated to him, and in order to eliminate future troubles, he still poisoned people to death. Little bean, Su Qingmei scolded hurriedly. Sister-in-law, I know I was wrong. We are still outside, so we can't discuss the affairs of the court. Su Qing'an was afraid that he would be careless and cause trouble. That's right, aren't you afraid that his minions will hear you and take you away to be whipped? Maybe they will even cut you into pieces, Huabao scared him. I won't say anything, Xiaoduzi quickly pursed his lips. Everyone worked together to dig a big pit and arrested the 20 or 30 attendants and maids of this family. The conditions were simple, but at least they were given a decent place. After cleaning up, Si Yuan said, "Miss, I'll go up and take a look." "I'll go and take a look too. I've been a mountain bandit, so it's no problem to go into the mountains," Huabao volunteered. "I'll go too." Xiaoduzi was also eager to try. "You should stay and protect my sister." Finally, Xiaoduzi and Zhangyang stayed behind, while Si Yuan and Huabao went into the mountains to get information. Waiting was boring, and thinking of the tragic scene they had just seen, the three of them couldn't help sighing again. "Sister-in-law, why did these bandits keep a child after they killed the whole family?" "Because the child is of noble status." But Su Qing'an didn't say it out loud, holding back her words, and only said, "The bandits are never satisfied. I'm afraid they want to hold the child hostage and ask for benefits from his family. These thieves are not afraid of eating too much." The three of them were waiting for news in the woods. Xiaoduzi was bored waiting, so he went to the mountains to shoot a few pheasants, packed them up, and roasted them on the fire. "It's good to follow my sister-in-law out, I don't feel any suffering, it's like traveling around." My sister-in-law arranged everything clearly, and the oil and salt were all packed in bamboo tubes. In such a cold day, there are also pottery pots to eat hot food. Su Qingnao couldn't wait any longer, so she picked up some mushrooms in the forest, collected water from a clay pot on a mountain wall, and cooked mushroom soup. The pheasant is roasted and the soup is ready. The three of them sat down and shared the food. Not long after eating, I saw Si Yuan running back. "Miss, there is a bandit den in the mountains with a lot of people. I'm afraid it will be difficult to break in during the day and rescue people. Si Yuan and Huabao are still watching there. I'll come back and tell the lady." "Are there many people?" "I'm afraid there will be 100 or 200 people. "Then you can't force your way in." Su Qingyu frowned. "There are only 6 of them out of the opponent's 100 to 200 people. No matter how good Zhangyang and others are, they may not be able to withstand the opponent's massive crowd tactics." But Xiaoduzi and Zhangyang were eager to give it a try. Most men have some passion in their bones. When I see an uneven road, I want to go up and compete with others and argue their merits with them. Su Qingyu thought about it. Even if he wanted to carry out a sneak attack at night and sneak in, he had to find a good way. Otherwise, the situation in the mountains is complicated. If you are not careful, you will fall into it instead of being rescued. "Have you found a way?" "Looking for it?" Su Qingyu said, "Hide the horse and carriage, and I will go look for them with you." "No, miss, you just stay outside. If something happens to you, how will we explain it to the king of you?" "It's okay. I've been in the mountains for a long time, and I'm more familiar with the conditions in the mountains than you are. Let's hide the important things in the trees first, hide the carriage in the dense forest, and hide the horses as well." Seeing that Su Qingyu couldn't get over what they said, everyone had no choice but to do what she said. After hiding the things, Su Qingyu followed them into the mountain. Su Qingyu had a cheating artifact, and she thought it might be easier for her to sneak in than them. Maybe someone would have to be rescued by her. The group of people quietly walked into the vicinity of the bandits' den. I don't know whether it's because he just occupies the mountain as the king or because he is too confident. There are no guards or sentries in this bandit den. Su Qingyu and others suddenly felt more relaxed. It seems that they are just ordinary bandits and have no special circumstances. That's fine. If you encounter a group of powerful combatants, I'm afraid a few of them won't be able to deal with them. It was still daylight, so the group joined Si Yuan and Huabao, and hid in a hiding place, waiting for darkness. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 335. Suking Nao lay in a hiding place, waiting for dark. Read. He stared at the bandits' den halfway up the mountain and didn't dare to make a sound. But my heart was in a mess. She was avoiding people just now, but she had already taken out the things in her arms and looked at them. A jade seal is wrapped in a piece of cotton cloth and placed in a brocade bag. It's about half the size of a palm, with 6 sides. The jade was transparent and shiny. Looking at the inscriptions on the bottom, Suking Nao recognized it for a long time and almost threw the jade seal away in fright. If you receive orders from heaven, you will live forever. These are the 8 characters engraved on the imperial seal. Unless you want to behead, no one dares to carve these 8 characters casually. But Suking Nao remembered that at the end of the Eastern Han dynasty, when the young emperor fled, the imperial seal disappeared. Is the square jade seal in her hand real or fake? Is it really a national jade seal? According to historical records, the imperial jade seal was ordered by the first emperor of Qin to be engraved and made of Lanshan jade. The front was engraved with the 8 seal characters ordered by heaven and longevity written by Li Si, as a token of the divine power of the emperor, orthodoxy and legitimacy. Since the Qin dynasty, it has been the seal passed down by emperors of the Qin dynasty. Emperors of all dynasties regarded the seal as a talisman, regarded it as a rare treasure, and regarded it as an important weapon of the country. If you get it, it means that you are ordained by heaven, and if you lose it, it means the energy is exhausted. Anyone who ascends to a great position without the seal will be ridiculed as a white emperor, showing lack of confidence and being despised by the world. So Wu Quanzhong was chasing the prince and princess because he wanted to get this imperial seal? Kui Sheng and Lu Bachan let the prince and grandson escape, so they were liquidated? Suking Nao didn't know many seal characters. But she likes to read history books, and she still knows the important runes. She looked carefully and looked again and again, and found that these were indeed the 8 large seal characters that were said to be engraved on the imperial seal. However, the imperial seal is said to be 4 inches in diameter. Is this too small? Not as big as her hand. Just like in the biography of Emperor Jiaozu of the Han dynasty, it is said that Liu Bang obtained the imperial seal and happily wore it as an ornament. If it's 4 inches, wouldn't it be a bit big if you wear it on your body? Moreover, the Chuangguo jade seal has been scrambled by those who want to seek great treasures, and no one knows whether the Chuangguo jade seal in their hands is genuine or fake. What about this one in her hand? Moreover, in addition to the jade seal passed down from the country, the emperor also had 6 jade seals. Maybe this is not the imperial seal? But just the emperor's seal, the emperor's official seal, the emperor's letter seal? No matter which one it is, this thing in my hand is very hot. No one can know this yet. Otherwise there will be a big disaster. I can't even tell my godfather. Otherwise, if the news is leaked, her family will never have peace. Suking Nao lay in a hidden place, feeling confused. The secret is too big to bear. Suking Nao pressed down hard, and her breath returned to normal. It was finally dark, and all 6 of them were ready to move. Suking Nao glanced at Huabao, and Huabao immediately understood and was waiting for this moment. He immediately stood up and quietly walked into the bandits' den. Suking Nao asked him to take the Mongolian sweat medicine this time. In view of her previous experience, she suffered from the lack of good medicine in the martial arts. To deal with Xiaoxio's generation, she had to use martial arts methods, using swords and guns with them, which was too energy-consuming and could easily hurt her own side. Not a good deal. So when they came out this time, they brought a lot of these good medicines. It is truly a must-have when traveling. Xiaoduzi couldn't stay still, so he gestured towards Suking Nao and touched her. Then Si Yuan also touched in. Zhang Yang was still lying in the hiding place with a bow and arrow to protect Su Qingyu. Maybe a big fish was caught in the bandits' den today. They exchanged cups and drank wine with big meat. It was a joy to eat. Another hour passed, until the lights were still on but the noise stopped. Su Qingyu and Zhang Yang heard a whistle. They were excited and hurriedly got up and ran to the bandits' den. "Miss. How was it?" "They're all down." "Then move in pairs." Si Yuan goes to see if there are any fish that have slipped through the net. Xiaoduzi and Huabao, you go see where they hide the treasure. Zhang Yang and I go to rescue people. Yes. So the 6 people took action separately. Hua Leopard had stayed in a bandit's den, and he was most happy to let him hunt for treasure. The thinking of bandits is different from that of normal people, and the place where gold and silver is hidden cannot be judged by common sense. It is most suitable to let Leopard take the escaped little Duzi. Si Yuan worked carefully and asked them to see if there were any conscious bandits, so as not to be outflanked by others. Let the 2 of them kill people if necessary. They are all a group of bandits full of evil, so just kill them. Su Qingyu and Zhang Yang went from house to house looking for people. Half an hour passed before I found him in a dark and narrow woodshed. A small child was tied up hand and foot by the bandits and thrown into a corner with rags stuffed in his mouth. His face was dirty, his hair was disheveled, and his coat had been taken away. He was only wearing a white coat, sitting in the corner, shivering from the cold. When someone pushed the door open and saw the children huddled up in a ball, their eyes were frightened, and they hurriedly moved their feet on the ground and hid in the corner. Since Su Qingyu gave birth to Xiaobao, her heart felt soft when she saw the child. Seeing this child like this made my heart feel sour and painful. Zhang Yang, a man, couldn't help but his eyes turned red when he saw him. Su Qingyu walked towards him slowly. When the child saw her coming, he moved desperately to the corner. Su Qingyu softened her voice, don't be afraid, we are here to save you." The child stared at Su Qingyu with a pair of dark eyes, glanced at Zhang Yang, and then moved to the corner in fear. Zhang Yang had to stop. Su Qingyu walked over, knelt down in front of him, pulled the rag from his mouth, and cut the rope around his body with the dagger he carried. The child said nothing and made no other movements, just stared at Su Qingyu. Su Qingyu thought that all his family members were dead, and the maids, mothers, and guards who had protected him were all dead, leaving him alone. My heart ached. He picked him up, protected him in his arms, and walked out. The child hugged her neck tightly. Seeing Zhang Yang looking at him, she quickly shrank into Su Qingyu's arms and buried her head in Su Qingyu's neck. Zhang Yang touched his nose and walked out first. Seeing that the child was scared, Su Qingyu said, I will carry him to the place where we were hiding just now. You stay here to help Xiaoduzi and the others. Good. Su Qingyu hugged him and walked out. The child raised his head from Su Qingyu's neck and looked at the bandits' den. There was a hint of chill in his eyes and he clenched his fists. When they arrived at the hiding place, Su Qingyu saw that his body was cold, so she quickly took off her outer clothes and covered them both. You're almost 5, aren't you? What's your name? The child looked up at her, pursed his lips and didn't answer. Su Qingyu sighed and looked at him with a serious expression, remember, from now on, your name is Lu Weizao. You will only be 4 years old in March next year. You have a younger brother named Lu Viang. Do you remember? Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhao 11U. Chapter 336. This child is a full year older than Xiaobao, but fortunately Xiaobao is not small. The 2 children are raised together. It seems reasonable to say that they are twins. But this child looks nothing like Xiaobao. Otherwise, say that Lu Bachan was outside with his life. It seems to work. I don't know if Lu Bachan will jump up. The child looked straight at Su Qingyu. Sukingyu waited for a long time before she heard him ask, "Are they all dead?" Although Sukingyu couldn't bear it, she still nodded, "Yes." After hearing this, the child lowered his head. After a while, he raised his head and said, "Can you always be my mother from now on?" Sukingyu was stunned for a moment. Seeing him biting her lip and staring straight at him without blinking her eyelids for a long time, she sighed inwardly and nodded, "Okay." Then he asked him softly, "Then do you remember what I just said?" The child repeated the words to Sukingyu, "My name is Lu Weizao. I am over 3 years old this year and will be 4 years old next March. I have a younger brother named Lu Viang." After speaking, he looked at Sukingyu. Sukingyu was about to say something when she saw him blink his eyes and tears fell from the corners of his eyes. Her heart suddenly felt as if someone had pricked her with a needle. He sighed and held the child in his arms. She stroked his back and comforted him silently. Lise Hijao lay quietly on Sukingyu's shoulder, crying silently. From now on, he will no longer be called Lise Hijao, but Lu Weizao. Miss. When Lise Hijao heard the voice, he was so frightened that he held back his tears and buried his head in Sukingyu's arms. "Don't be afraid, Sukingyu comforted him. "Look at Si Yuan." Si Yuan glanced at the child and knew that it was the child they had come to the mountain to rescue this time. After taking a look at him, he saw that he didn't dare to raise his head, so he looked at Sukingyu. "Miss, we discussed and killed some of the leaders, and we left the remaining minions untouched. Huabao and Xiaoduzi discovered an underground warehouse with a large amount of gold and silver hidden in it. They asked the lady what to do with it. I'm afraid I won't be able to take it back." Sukingyu thought for a while and said, "Carry them out and bury them in a hidden place in the mountains. When we go back, let our godfather send people to dig them out quietly." "Yes. We can't give them any advantage." Sukingyu thought for a moment, "Wait, I'll go with you to help. It's faster this way. We have to escape from this place at night. At least we have to get to the next city before dawn." "Good. Zhao Zhao, be good and stay here alone, okay?" When Lu Weizao heard this, he quickly grabbed her and hugged her thigh tightly, refusing to let go. Seeing this, Si Yuan said, "Miss, just stay here with him. We can just make more trips. It's not easy to walk at night." Sukingnao saw that the child was holding her body was still trembling, and she didn't feel safe at all, so she had to forget it. The group of people transported the gold, silver and other items from the bandits' den overnight, found a hiding place in the mountains, buried them, hitched up their carriages and horses overnight, and galloped away. We kept fighting all the way, and by noon the next day, we were already 200 miles away from the valley. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone found a forest to rest. "Mom," a cry came from the carriage. Sukingnao didn't react for a while. When she heard mother again, Sukingnao reacted and said hey. He looked at Si Yuan, Xiaoduzi and others and walked towards the carriage. When they parked the car, they saw that he was drowsy, so Sukingyu asked him to sleep in the car, while she, Xiaoduzi and others made a fire in the woods to cook. And when the child let him sleep at night, he refused to close his eyes. I coaxed him to call me mother in the morning, but he refused to do so. "Why is it that after sleeping, you wake up and call me mother?" Sukingyu walked over and lifted the car curtain. Lu Weizao rubbed his eyes and saw someone lifting the curtain. He paused, and when he saw it was Sukingyu, he hurriedly reached out to him for a hug. "Mother. Hey. Have you had enough sleep? Are you hungry?" The child nodded in her arms, and Nyonyo responded, "Hungry." Sukingyu carried him to the fire and taught him how to call people. This child also changed from his aloofness yesterday. Today he looked childish and called this uncle and that uncle in a soft voice. A child who was only a few years old, and his family was brutally wiped out, and everyone felt sympathy for him. She fell in love with him immediately and offered him all kinds of food. Sukingyu stared blankly at this child who was completely different from yesterday. She was not sure whether he had forgotten the past after a long sleep or had hidden the past. If the past is hidden, then the children of the Tian family are really raised too early. However, since he calls her mother, she should raise him well and not lack a bite of food from him. For such an old child, no matter how precocious he is, can he be allowed to live alone? The child called her mother sweetly and relied on her. Looking at his clear and clean eyes, Sukingyu felt in a trance. It was as if she had given birth to this child. It's just like one of the two children followed her and the other followed her father. She went to find the father and then took the child back. Xiaoduzi was very happy to have another nephew, and kept teasing him. Zhao Zhao, Zhao Zhao called him. The children also played happily with everyone. Sukingyu breathed a sigh of relief. When they had enough rest, everyone started heading south again. On this day, I arrived in Huangzhou, Hubei, and passed through Huangzhou to Jiangxi. Everyone let out a deep breath. The end is not far from home. Unexpectedly, from a distance, I saw roadblocks set up in the direction of the city and a long queue. Sukingyu felt something was wrong. Pull the carriage to a sheltered place and let the leopard come forward to investigate. After waiting for a stick of incense, Hua leopard came back with a solemn expression. I heard they were looking for someone. I didn't ask for details. Are you still looking for senior brother? No, there is no one looking for General Lu on the south side. This Huangzhou is the territory of Wu state, and Yang Bai has ascended the throne and proclaimed himself emperor. Why should he look for General Lu? He probably wants General Lu to have trouble with that guy. Get up. Sukingyu thought of what she had hidden on her body, and her heart skipped a beat. Does Yang Bai also want to pass on the national jade seal? Since ancient times, emperors who ascended the throne without obtaining the imperial seal have always felt that they were not destined to belong, so they always had to make great efforts to search everywhere. Even if they found someone to carve a fake imperial seal, they still had to get a imperial seal. Sukingyu looked at Zhao Zhao. No matter what, don't take any chances. Xiaoduzi, you and Huabao go and find out if there is any other way around Huangzhou. Good. After some inquiries, the two came back and both said that if they wanted to go to Jiangxi, they had to pass through Huangzhou city before going south. Let's go try. If we can't make it, we'll find a way. Huabao thought he should give it a try. No, we can't take risks. We don't know who they are looking for yet. Ziyuan glanced at Zhao Zhao. Seeing that the child was a little nervous, Sukingyu quickly held him in her arms. He looked at the sky and said, let's find a village near Huangzhou to stay for one night, and then think of a solution at night. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 337. So the group of people turned around and drove towards a small village. I spent 2 taels of silver and settled in a villager's home. After dinner, everyone sat together to think of a solution. Not knowing whether the officers and soldiers in Huangzhou were looking for Zhao Zhao, Sukingyu felt that she couldn't take the risk. Everyone put forward several ideas one by one, but in the end they all felt that it would not work. It was late at night, the horses were exhausted and the people were sleepy, so Sukingyu asked everyone to go to bed. Maybe they would think of a solution after sleeping. Seeing the child sleeping next to her, holding the corner of Sukingyu's clothes tightly and tossing and turning, Sukingyu felt a little distressed. Now that you have decided to adopt this child, you must protect him. Is there any way to make this child invisible so that no one can see it? Make a dark room in the carriage. Make a mezzanine? If he was discovered, he would probably die. So is there any way to hide people without letting people check them? Bald head. I thought about it all night, and when I was lying on the bed and falling asleep, I suddenly had an idea. Got it? The next day, So Qingyu told everyone the plan, and everyone applauded. Huabao and Xiaoduzi immediately volunteered to go to Huangzhou to purchase. So Qingyu and others left the village and hid in a forest. More than an hour later, the two of them came back. He was pulling a cart with a coffin on it. Several people carried the coffin down, modified it, and made a mezzanine for Zhao Zhao to lie underneath. Huabao volunteered to pretend to be dead and lay on top. In this way, you can sneak into the city without being noticed, and no one will check when you leave the city. Afraid of being inspected, Huabao painted himself in pale white makeup and looked so miserable that no one would dare to snoop around. The people then covered the carriages with white cloths, and the carts were also hung with white cloths. Several people also put on mourning clothes. A group of people, a carriage, pulling a cart, and carrying a coffin, headed for Huangzhou city. When they arrived at the checkpoint, several officials who set up barriers just looked at them and let them go. No one checked at all. When a few people thought it was going smoothly, they were stopped when they were leaving the city. Several officers and soldiers wanted to open the coffin. So Qingyu sat in the carriage and sweated. Xiaoduzi was a clever man and explained repeatedly to the officials, crying and begging, but the officers and soldiers remained unmoved. Xiaoduzi cried and said that he could not let his brother be exposed to the sun. He was afraid that he would lose his mind if he was exposed to the sun, so he asked the officials to find a black cloth before he could open it. Several officials refused. Little Duzu rolled around on the ground, and a crowd of people immediately gathered at the gate of the city. The horses were getting tired of being surrounded by people. He raised his hooves. So Qingyu thought for a while, then got out of the car, walked towards the officers and soldiers, and bowed. It's not that we don't want to open the coffin, it's because my brother is suffering from the epidemic. If there is any mistake in opening the coffin, it will infect the people of Shangzhou city, causing the entire Huangzhou to be sealed off, and innocent people will be burned. Before he finished speaking, the people watching dispersed with a loud bang. The officers and soldiers also took a few steps back towards them. So Qingyu was overjoyed and said, "Look at it, adults. This coffin is nailed shut. There is no crack at all. How can a living person be able to fit in it?" Several officers and soldiers looked at each other. He covered his mouth and nose and looked carefully at the coffin. It was indeed sealed with big nails. It would take a lot of effort to open it. So Qingyu motioned to Xiaoduzi. Xiaoduzi immediately took out the money bag in his arms and stuffed it into the hands of one of the officers and soldiers who looked like a boss. It's not because we are not cooperating. Firstly, we are afraid of infecting the people of the state and city, and secondly, we are afraid of disturbing our ancestors. Please show me your support, and my whole family will thank you. A burst of runny nose and a burst of tears. The officer and soldier weighed the money bags in their hands. They were heavy and very satisfied. He came up again and took a closer look at So Qingyu and others. A few officers and soldiers got the money, but seeing that it was not the person they were looking for and not wanting to offend others, they let him go. After the group of people left Huangzhou city and found a place to hide from others, they quickly released Huabao and Zhao Zhao. "Mom, I was lying so numb. I was at the gate of the city just now, and I didn't even dare to breathe." As soon as the leopard's feet touched the ground, he immediately jumped a few times and wiped the makeup off his face with a towel. Xiaoduzi and others went over to help. So Qingyu held Zhao Zhao in her arms and praised him. "Zhao Zhao is so amazing, he was lying motionless just now. It's awesome." Zhao Zhao pursed his lips and raised the corners of his lips. "Mom, I want to pee." "Okay, Mom will take you there, good guy. I'm afraid this is suffocating the child." The group buried the coffin and hurried on their way. When they arrived at the Yuking's territory, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It's home. "Zhao Zhao, have you remembered all the people in your family that Mom told you all the way?" Zhao Zhao nodded obediently. "I remember." A beautiful and delicate little face looked straight at her, making Sukingyu think that she had given birth to a daughter before and was taken away by Lu Bachan. This time she brought the person back. This child looks so exquisite. Her lips are red and her teeth are white, her eyelashes are long, and her face is pink and tender. She is indistinguishable from male to female. Although not as lively as Xiaobao, he is really delicate and cute, and has captured the hearts of Xiaoduzi and several other uncles along the way. Everyone entered the palace of Prince Yu in Reizhu. When Kui Yueying saw her returning safely, she almost cried while holding her hand. When she saw a little baby nestling next to her thigh, she froze and stared at the boss. Qing Lao, this. Where's your godfather? I'll tell you when I see my godfather. Suking Nao asked Zhao Zhao to follow the maid down to wash up, but he refused. He hugged Suking Nao's thighs and refused to move an inch. Let's go, Uncle Xiaoduzi will take you to take a fragrant bath. We're almost sore all the way there. If it smells sour, it won't be cute anymore. Zhao Zhao raised his arm and sniffed under his nose, glanced at Sukingyu, and then followed Xiaoduzi. Sukingyu sighed in her heart, and even after coaxing her for a long time, she was unwilling to leave her. When she said that her body was sour and smelly, she automatically followed Xiaoduzi. This child's previous life must have been extremely delicate and carefully cared for. He sighed secretly. Xiaobao returned to the mountains. No, this kid refused to stay longer. When he saw that Grandpa Ma wanted to go back to the mountains, he also made a fuss about going back. He said he wanted to practice martial arts with Grandpa Ma and become more powerful. When your godfather saw it, I liked it very much. I felt that the child was so self-disciplined that I couldn't delay him, so I asked Ma Xian and Xingyang to take him back. Sukingyu nodded. Xiaobao is used to staying in the mountains, and he is afraid that he will miss home and miss his grandparents and others. Is this trip going well? Is Bocheng still alive? Have you seen him? Kui Yueying held her hand, very concerned. Yes, I see you. As they talked, the two arrived at Ma Mingwen's study. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha 11U. Chapter 338. Ma Mingwen had received Xiaoduzi's report early and knew that she had brought a child back with her on this trip, so he asked her about the situation. Audience. Sukingyu first told him about meeting Lu Bachan. Ma Mingwen often sighed with emotion. Just live, just live. It seems that he is going to join Mukong this time. Although Mukong doesn't like Wu Quanzhong, he is also an ambitious person. But I'm afraid there will be more conquests in the future. Ma Mingwen was a little worried. Master, can you send a letter to Bocheng and ask him to come back and follow me? Ma Mingwen shook his head. I understand Bocheng's temperament. He led his troops to Shandong, probably because he wanted to use Mukong's power to avenge Kui Sheng and Feng Xiang's army. Then he returns to the master. He will not come back to me. He is afraid of hurting me and the family. Ma Mingwen let out a long sigh. He said to Sukingyu, don't worry. I will order someone to bring him a letter and tell him the pros and cons, and I will advise him. No matter what, I hope he is safe. Thank you, Godfather. Why should one family speak two different languages? What about the child? Sukingyu kept Yuxi secret, but told Ma Mingwen about Xiaozuo's true identity. She told Xiaoduzi and others that Zhao Zhao was a branch of the Kui family. There was something wrong with this matter, and she was afraid that she would not be able to get through with her godfather. In case the Kui family comes to visit in the future. I'm afraid I can't hold it in my pocket. Ma Mingwen has no ambitions, and he will not use Xiaozuo's identity to do something that would put Zhao Zhao in danger. Ah, Does this child have such an identity? Kui Yuing's eyes widened and she looked at Su Qingyu in disbelief. Su Qingyu nodded towards her. This. Kui Yuing looked at Ma Mingwen in disbelief. Ma Mingwen stood up, frowning and walking around in the study. After a long while, he stopped and said, "This child's identity must be kept secret. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble." "Yes. I only told my godfather and Aunt Kui." Ma Mingwen nodded and looked at Kui Yuing. Kui Yuing covered her lips tightly with her hands and nodded towards Ma Mingwen. Ma Mingwen knew Kui Yuing's personality and wasn't too worried. Then he looked at Su Qingyu. "Wu Quanzhong is cruel and unpopular. He poisoned the last emperor who was demoted to Huaiyan, which has caused dissatisfaction among the people in the world. A great chaos will break out in the Central Plains regime. If the child's identity is leaked, I'm afraid many people will use this child to make a fuss about the emperor, and the world will be in chaos. If there is any chance, it is better to won't." Su Qingyu knew what Ma Mingwen meant. "Except for my godfather and Aunt Kui, I will not tell any third person about the child's identity. Not even Lu Bachan. Moreover, when her wet nurse entrusted him to me, she told me to raise him and let him be an ordinary person and never return to Chang'an. I promised her." Ma Mingwen nodded. "That's very good." After saying that, he looked at Su Qingyu. "You are soft-hearted. This matter, if you encounter difficulties in the future, you must tell your godfather. If you can't make a decision, let your godfather make it for you." "Yes." Kui Yuing looked at this and that, comforting Ma Mingwen and said, "Don't be unreasonable. Let the child stay in the mountains for a few years, and then he will be no different from a child in the mountains. And Qinglao is not a person who doesn't understand propriety." Ma Mingwen glanced at her and said nothing. "This matter is too serious. Once the news leaks out, not only King Gluo's family will be in danger, but the whole world will be in chaos. It would be better to nip the symptoms in the first place. One person's life is exchanged for everyone's peace." Su Qingyu knew what he meant. Firstly, it was entrusted to someone in the first place, and secondly, it was really unbearable for such a young child. After becoming a mother, my heart softened. "Don't worry, godfather, I'll keep him in the mountains and won't let him out of the mountains anytime soon." "Yes. I'll call Xiaoduzi, Zhang Yang, and others to give them some instructions later." "Good." After talking about the child, Su Qingyu then talked about burying gold and silver in that mountain. Ma Mingwen nodded. "Don't worry, I'll leave this matter to my godfather." "Thank you, godfather. I always think of my godfather." "Don't godfathers mean one family? One family doesn't mean two families. I know godfathers also spend a lot of money. I can help godfathers save as much as possible." Ma Mingwen nodded to her happily. "This is not a daughter-in-law, this is just a daughter-in-law. At night, I slept in bed with Zhao Zhao." Su Qingyu thought for a while and decided to give the child a few words. "Zhao Zhao, do you still remember what happened before?" Zhao Zhao blinked at her, took her hand and held it in his hand, but pursed his lips and refused to answer. Su Qingyu sighed. "Zhao Zhao, who am I?" "It's mother." Su Qingyu touched his head. "Yes, I am mother. I will raise Zhao Zhao in the future. Do you want Zhao Zhao to listen to mother?" Zhao Zhao nodded. "Okay. Be good. My mother told Zhao Zhao that she doesn't want Zhao Zhao to return to the place where she lived before. She hopes that Zhao Zhao can be an ordinary person from now on, with no maids or servants, just our family, and we can do our own things. Zhao Zhao can just stay with his mother and brother from now on, okay? Aren't you going back?" "Not going back." "Aren't you going to take revenge?" Su Qingyu was stunned. This kid really remembers everything. Su Qingyu caressed his little face. "No revenge. Mother hopes that Zhao Zhao can grow up in peace and just be an ordinary person." If Zhao Zhao wants to go back to the place where he originally lived, mother will ask the king of you to send Zhao Zhao to if he is adopted by a suitable family, he will not go into the mountains with his mother. Don't want. Upon hearing this, Zhao Zhao hugged Su Qingyu's arm. Tears immediately welled up in his eyes, and his whole body trembled. Mother, don't let Zhao Zhao go. Mother, don't abandon Zhao Zhao. He looked like he was about to be abandoned. It looks like a pitiful little beast. Su Qingyu hurriedly held him in her arms to comfort him. Sigh. Godfather is right. She just wants to be a normal person. If the matter is too big to deal with, it is better not to adopt him and send him to a suitable family for adoption. There should be many people willing to accept Zhao Zhao. As for the godfather, if he finds out that Zhao Zhao has brought trouble to her, her family, and you did, he is afraid that he will really deal with him. Su Qingnao did not regret telling her godfather the identity of her child. This was a big deal, and she needed someone to help her carry it. Moreover, saying that he is a branch of the Kui family can be justified by other people, but not by the godfather. Instead of hiding it, it's better to confess it to your godfather. But she kept the matter of Fang Yuxi in the brocade bag hidden. Is Zhao Zhao going to the mountains with mother? Then Zhao Zhao won't go back to where he originally lived. No return. Then take revenge. The child paused. Such a young child probably doesn't understand what revenge means, or it may be an obsession instilled by adults. It's not a good thing to have such a young child carry so much. Seeing that he didn't answer, Su Qingnao also felt that her question was a bit cruel, so she said gently, my mother and Zhao Zhao have made an agreement that when Zhao Zhao reaches the age of 18, okay. Good. The hook. The child does not know what a retractor is. Su Qingyu explained it to him. Zhao Zhao knew that his mother would not abandon him, nor would she abandon him, so he happily started a hookup with Su Qingyu. Finally, he fell asleep deeply in Su Qingyu's arms. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 339. The next day, Su Qingyu planned to go back to the mountains. It has been more than 2 months since I came out. I miss my son and my little baby. I don't know if the baby is crying or not. Seeing that they couldn't keep her, Kui Yueying and Ma Mingwen packed a lot of things for her and sent someone to take her back. Godfather, we can only go to Yangjia on the rooftop until the weather gets warmer next year. Su Qingyu originally wanted to go to Tiantai Yangjia when she came to Reizhu. Her management of the joint village in Renzhou had already begun to bear fruit, so she wanted to visit the mountains in other cities. These are all the godfather's territory. Developing and utilizing them will be beneficial to both her and the godfather. But I didn't expect that hearing the news about Lu Bachan would delay the matter. Ma Mingwen waved his hand, it doesn't matter. I will tell the officials from the 2 places to prepare detailed documents and send them to you first, so as to save you some time in collecting information in the early stage. When the information is available, I will send it to you. Okay. Thank you, Godfather. Sister-in-law, come and see us when you have time. Zhao Zhao, come and play with your uncle when you have time. Xiaoduzi stood at the door and said goodbye to her. Okay. Definitely. Zhao Zhao also waved his little hand towards Xiaoduzi. Ma Mingwen glanced at Xiaozuo's face. The child was so frightened that he twisted around and got into the car. Su Qingyu and Ma Mingwen looked at each other, nodded to him, and got in the car. After saying goodbye, Si Yuan set off in his car, and Prince Yu's mansion also sent a team to see him off. The group of people returned home. When we left, it was not yet autumn. It's late autumn now, and the cold wind is making my face hurt. But it is also much warmer than in the north. Still comfortable in one's own territory. The journey across the country was very uneventful. It made everyone relax a lot. As soon as he entered the village, Xiaobao immediately ran over after receiving the news. Mother, mother. It was Xiaobao's bathing day today. As soon as he heard Sukingyu's voice, he immediately ran out of the house excitedly and rushed towards her. He almost threw her to the ground. Mom! You've been gone for so long. Xiaobao misses you so much. He raised his head with admiration on his face. Mom misses Xiaobao too. Liar, if mother missed Xiaobao, she wouldn't come back now. Mom just missed Xiaobao so much that she came back now, otherwise it would have been much longer. Really? Really? Wow, that's great. Mom, Xiaobao misses you too. The whole Suk family happily gathered around Sukingyu. It had been more than 2 months and everyone was a little uncomfortable with Sukingyu being away for so long. Su's father and Su's mother sighed while moving their luggage. We are finally back. Lu and Ruyi said while moving, Miss is not at home, we are not used to it. That's right. Mom, if you don't come back, Xiaobao will eat less. Really? Now that mom is back, why don't you eat more? Sister, whose family does this child belong to? Qingxing looked at Zhao Zhao who was holding Sukingyu's clothes, and said in confusion. Yaya and Zhao Zhao had been staring at each other for a long time. When the others heard this, although they had wanted to ask just now, they saw that the mother and son were tired while helping to move things, so it was not easy to ask. When he asked this question, he saw that the child was still hiding behind Sukingyu with a scared look on his face. They didn't dare to get close. Stop scaring other people's children. This child is so good looking, his face and eyebrows are so delicate. I'm afraid she's not a little girl. When Xiaobao heard this, he hurriedly stretched his head from Sukingyu's shoulder and looked down. The two children looked directly into each other's eyes. Who are you? Zhao Zhao didn't answer, but tightly pulled the hem of Sukingyu's clothes and pressed it against Sukingyu's thigh. Just when everyone thought that the child was scared and would not speak, the child suddenly looked at Sukingyu and called out, Mom! Ah! Immediately shocking. Sister, what did he call you? You've only been out for more than 2 months, and you've already given birth to a child. Su's father, Su's mother, and others looked at the child and then at Sukingyu, all looking confused. This young prostitute? Just as Sukingyu was about to explain, Xiaobao slipped out of her arms and stood in front of Zhao Zhao, clenching his fists. This is my mother. Not your mother. Don't mistake your mother. She's not your mother. He also followed Zhao Zhao's example and hugged Sukingyu's other leg. After taking a breath, he felt a little angry again, so he stepped forward and gave Zhao Zhao a push. This is my mother, I won't let you hold her. Zhao Zhao was pushed back by him and almost lost his balance. He quickly grabbed the hem of Sukingyu's clothes. Sukingjao glared at Xiaobao and saw Zhao Zhao holding her clothes tightly with his 2 little hands, his little face full of uneasiness. She stretched out her hand towards him, wanting to pick him up. Xiaobao immediately became angry and pushed Sukingyu, no hugging. When Sukingyu looked over, she still spoke plausibly and pouted angrily, You are my mother, so you are not allowed to hug him. What's going on with mom? She's been out for so long and she brings back another little treasure. Doesn't mom want the little treasure anymore? Xiaobao pursed his lips and burst into tears. Xiaobao, are you a good boy? Xiaobao pursed his lips tightly, feeling that his mother had gone out and no longer wanted him. He clenched his little fists tightly and stared at Zhao Zhao with his eyes widened. He just refused to reply to Sukingyu's words. Xiaobao, are you not good? When Xiaobao heard this, he felt even more aggrieved. He was obedient, he was good, but it was his mother who was not good. Once her mother went out, she no longer loved Xiaobao. Wow! Xiaobao groaned, raised his head and cried in grievance. Don't cry, little baby. Seeing their beloved grandson crying, Sue's mother and others gathered around to comfort her, but Xiaobao refused to let others hold her and held on tightly to the hem of Su Qingyu's clothes. Su Qingyu looked at Xiaobao, who was crying aggrievedly, and felt very distressed. Looking at Zhao Zhao, who looked at a loss, he felt a little distressed. Headache. Why raise two children? Yaya, come on, can you take brother Zhao Zhao to visit our home? Su Qingnao called Yaya. Zhao Zhao is still new to this family, but the kindness from his peers may open his heart more quickly. After saying that, he leaned over to coax Zhao Zhao. Zhao Zhao will go with his sister to see if his future home is okay. After mother coaxes my brother, she will come to Zhao Zhao, okay. Zhao Zhao looked at Xiaobao, who was crying so hard that his face was covered with tears and snot. He also let go and nodded to Su Qingyu. Qingyang Qingxin will also accompany your nephew to visit our house. This is Xiao's first time in the mountains. Although Qingyang Qingxin was very confused, she felt a little distressed when she saw such a young child at a loss in a strange place. Taking her signal, he and Yaya led Zhao Zhao away. Father Su and Mother Su looked at each other in shock. When they saw Su Qingyu carrying Xiaobao into the house, they followed him in. Su Qingyu coaxed Xiaobao for a long time before she stopped crying. Suckling tears, doesn't he have a mother? Yes. He has no father and no family. How pitiful it is. If we don't want him, he will have nowhere to go. He will be alone outside with no food, no water to drink, and no bed to sleep on. How pitiful it is to be bullied. Xiaobao clasped his fingers. I feel so pitiful for my little brother. But can't you take someone else as your mother? Xiaobao doesn't want others to take over his mother's role. No, it was my mother who saved him. If we push him to others, does he think we don't want him anymore? What if others treat him badly again? How pitiful he is. After hearing this, Sue's father and Sue's mother felt infinite sympathy and distress for Zhao Zhao. It was so tragic. The whole family was dead, and he was the only one left. How could such a small child live alone? Xiaobao. Mother Su said to Xiaobao. Xiaobao looked at her. Xiaobao is a good boy, isn't he? Xiaobao said nothing. Mother Su coaxed again, look, Xiaobao, Grandma has your mother, and two uncles. Grandma has more than one child, right? Grandma loves them all. Grandma scolded my aunt. Mother Su choked. Father Su glared at Mother Su, telling you to always talk about Qingxing. He turned to Xiaobao with another smile, Xiaobao. The three of them surrounded Xiaobao and coaxed him for a long time before he was finally coaxed. Su Qingyu breathed a sigh of relief. He raised his voice and asked Qingyang to bring Zhao Zhao in. Seeing Zhao Zhao walking towards Su Qingnao, Xiaobao hugged Su Qingnao tightly again. He pouted and looked at Zhao Zhao. Unexpectedly, Zhao Zhao didn't go to hug Su Qingnao, but went to hold Xiaobao's hand. Brother. Xiaobao was stunned. Su Qingyu was also stunned. When she came to her senses, she was very pleased. This was a sensible child. Xiaobao felt a little embarrassed. Seeing everyone looking at him, he also called out, brother. Seeing everyone praising him, he felt a little embarrassed. Buried his head in Su Qingyu's arms. Su Qingyu also pulled Zhao Zhao over and held him in her arms. The two children felt so novel that they looked at each other in her arms. Su Qingnao asked Zhao Zhao to call someone. Zhao Zhao also called her grandma, grandpa, uncle, and aunt in a sensible way. He was instantly loved by the whole family. When Su Dehua Weifu came and Su Qingliu came back in the evening, they felt strange again. I feel sympathy and heartache for this child. Life at home is getting better, and having one more child can make things more lively. Sue's father and Sue's mother quickly accepted the addition of a grandson and were very happy. I took Lu and Ruyi to cook a large table of dishes, which made Zhao Zhao very happy. I have probably never eaten with so many people. He has never had such an experience. He can talk while eating, and the whole family is surrounding him. The whole family is putting food into his bowl, and everyone expresses kindness and love to him. Let the little Zhao Zhao feel warm in his heart. Children are still too young to understand how they feel inside. I just think he likes it here, he likes this home. After dinner, Su King Nao took Zhao Zhao for a walk in the courtyard and talked to him. Zhao Zhao asked her, "Mom, why am I called Zhao Zhao and my brother is called Xiaobao?" Zhao represents the sun, which means light. Don't you like Zhao Zhao? Zhao Zhao pursed his lips and said nothing. Su Qingyu looked at him and suddenly realized, "Mom, I will call you Dabao and my brother Xiaobao from now on, okay?" Okay. Zhao Zhao nodded heavily. Su Qingnao laughed unconsciously. Touched his head. She naturally supported the child's desire to integrate into the family, but she had ignored it before. Zhao Zhao lowered his head and raised the corners of his mouth happily. From that evening on, there was a big baby and a little baby at home. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha 11u. Chapter 340. The next day, Su Qingnao asked Qingyang to take 3 days off for Xiaobao, deciding that she wanted her family to spend time with him. Read. She had been away from home for many days, and when she came back, there was a little brother in the house who was separated from him. Although Xiaobao was coaxed by everyone, Su Qingyu was still afraid that he would feel uncomfortable. Decided to spend a few days with him at home. Last night, the two children slept beside her, one on the left and the other on the right. They stared at each other with big eyes and small eyes, each holding her arm, unwilling to fall asleep for a long time. Su Qingyu told several stories, and the more she told them, the more excited the two brothers became. Xiaobao hasn't heard it for a long time. Mom has been away for more than 2 months, and in his little world, it seems like a long time. Dabao has never heard such a story. Can both birds and pigs talk? Will you build a house? Can you still cook? The child was a little subversive in his heart and kept asking Su Qingyu questions. Su Qingyu was confused by the question. She told Xiaobao these stories before, but Xiaobao never asked her, why can birds talk, why can cows and sheep be friends, and why can piglets cook? These questions. Su Qingyu realized that it was okay to coax Xiaobao with such stories, but it seemed inappropriate to tell Dabao. This child, she asked, started learning Sanbakian at the age of 2. He knew common words and could hold a pen. Telling this kind of story to him, the child may not be able to understand it, and she has to keep explaining it, which makes her feel very difficult. Growing up in different environments, educational philosophies are also very different. Xiaobao has been taught these things by her since she was a child, so she never feels out of place. She even helped Su Qingnao explain, of course piglets can talk, otherwise how can they talk to their parents? But Dabao would then ask, then how can we understand? How can we also know what they are thinking? We are different from them. Su Qingjao will feel crazy. Therefore, this kind of story cannot be told anymore. We can only tell the story of herding Zhonyang, Zhengren buying shoes, and the scholars seeing each other with admiration after 3 days apart. The brothers listened with great interest. Xiaobao had never heard this kind of story before. His mother treated him like a baby and always told stories about piglets and lambs. Dabao, on the other hand, has been receiving early education since he was 2 or 3 years old, and the learning content is also rigorous. He has already completed 300,000 lessons, and has already begun to teach Confucian classics such as the 4 books and the 5 classics. I've never heard of this kind of children's story before. The more I listen, the brighter my eyes become. The two brothers couldn't care less about competing for favor and asked one question after another. Finally, Su Qingyu got tired of asking questions, so she forced them to sleep. Dabeo opened his big eyes in the darkness and blinked for a long time before falling asleep. He really liked listening to the stories his mother told him. He hadn't heard it before. Before going to bed, I hugged Sukingyu's arm tightly and fell asleep when I heard the little cry of my brother next to me. After getting up, Sukingyu took them to have breakfast. Seeing that Dabeo was curious about everything, he took the 3 children to stroll around the village. "Why have you never seen a chicken? You haven't seen the dog at home. Don't you have one at home?" Xiaobao asked strangely when he saw Dabeo staring at the 2 grown-up dogs that were wandering around him. He was scared and curious, staring at them without blinking. Dabeo shook his head, "No, I don't have any at home." Xiaobao looked at him and felt that his brother was really pitiful. There are no dogs at home, and they have never seen chickens. They must be very poor. If you don't have chickens at home, you probably haven't eaten any eggs. How pitiful. He's so pitiful, so let him hug her. Pitiful. These are chickens raised by everyone in the village, and grandma also raised a lot. They can lay eggs for my sister and me to eat every day. It's so pitiful that I haven't even eaten eggs. I'll ask grandma to give you some more eggs at home from now on. Looking at the little brother, I felt that he was so pitiful. Dabeo has never eaten eggs before, but he has never seen what eggs look like. The servants all prepared meals and brought them to him. He doesn't know what anything looks like. Seeing that brother Dabeo was curious about everything, Yaya took his hand and introduced him patiently. Seeing that his hands were a little cold, she rubbed them for him. "I'll ask grandma to teach me how to make gloves and earbags later." Brother Xiaobao also got chilblains when he first came to the mountains. You should also get them. There are many places in the mountains. It's cold. When Xiaobao heard this, he nodded repeatedly, "Yes, yes. It's so itchy and uncomfortable." Seeing that after only one night, the 3 children could play together, Sukingyu breathed a sigh of relief. It's not easy to raise a little baby. If you have a big baby, it's okay if it's fine, but if it gets into trouble, it's really hard to coax. In less than a day, everyone in the village knew that the boss had another eldest son named Dabeo. Seeing that he was cute, polite, and like a grown-up, everyone greeted him with great enthusiasm. Dabeo also responded shyly. After walking around the village, I felt a lot more courageous. Xiaobao was very lively. When he saw a bunch of children in the village wanting to play with him, he immediately pulled Dabeo over. Dabeo glanced at Sukingyu and saw Sukingyu's encouraging face, so he and his brother went over to play with a group of children. Yaya was very capable of being a sister and immediately followed her, looking at her 2 younger brothers. At first, Dabeo would just stand aside and watch, but after a while, Dabeo let go and quickly integrated into the children's games. This child may have never played with so many children, and he was eager to try it, curious and a little excited. At first, he just stood there blankly watching everyone play, and kept looking back for Sukingneo. After a while, he let go and got together with a group of children, forgetting about Sukingneo. She refused to go home for lunch at noon, so Xiaobao pulled her and Yaya to eat together in the village's big canteen. There are many single people in the village, or the grandfather is raising a child, or the grandmother is raising a child, or there is usually work in the village. It is inconvenient for everyone to cook, or there is no time to cook for the children. Sukingyu will set up a secluded place and set up a public canteen. Everyone can eat in the village for free. It is mainly convenient for the elderly, children, and some people who have difficulty cooking. Xiaobao sometimes has fun playing with a group of children, and is also happy to eat in the cafeteria with a group of children. I don't know if the rice in someone else's pot tastes better, or if it's more delicious if you are with the children and compete with each other to eat it. Xiaobao is very willing to play and eat with a bunch of peers, and be happy. It made Dabeo very excited. After dinner, Dabeo and Xiaobeo went with a group of children to chase bamboo rats in the bamboo forest, and then fished for small fish and shrimps in the mountain stream. It was such a joy to play. Even Sue's mother didn't want to go back when she went to find them. Until Sukingyu stood on the mountainside and shouted, "Dabeo, Xiaobeo, go home." Xiaobeo's ears pricked up and he listened carefully. "Mom called us. Brother, sister, we are going home. We're going home and we'll play again tomorrow." He immediately threw away the things in his hands, said goodbye to the children, grabbed the hands of his brothers and sisters from left to right, and ran home. "Go home quickly, or my mother will get spanked if she gets angry." Sukingyu was speechless when she looked at the two children who were covered in dirt from playing and had dirty faces. Xiaobeo follows his uncle to the training camp every day to train. He hasn't played like this for a long time, so he feels a little free. And Dabeo probably just opened up a new world, and he couldn't stop it. When Xiaobeo saw Sukingneo looking at him, he smiled and acted coquettishly towards Sukingneo. Dabeo didn't dare to meet her eyes, a little afraid of her scolding, so he lowered his head. I felt in my heart that his behavior today was a little out of touch and out of place, and I was afraid that he would be punished. Just when he was uneasy, he didn't expect that Sukingyu didn't blame them at all and just took them to take a bath. Dabeo was surprised and happy. She pursed her lips, raised the corners of her mouth, held Sukingyu's hand tightly, and took small steps happily to take a shower. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhyaoye 11U. Chapter 341. Sukingneo stayed with the two children for 3 days. Read. Dabeo and Xiaobeo were having fun in the village. The steady Dabeo was led by the lively Xiaobeo, and he became a lot more cheerful. Sukingyu had never seen him laugh since she saved him, but she didn't expect to hear him laughing loudly in the past 2 days. Sukingneo felt relieved. Such a young child was burdened with so much, and Sukingyu was afraid that his personality would become gloomy. Seeing that he can think about it, I felt relieved. On the evening of the 3rd day, after dinner, Sukingyu took the two brothers to eat. Xiaobeo happily ran and jumped in the yard. Seeing that my brother understands nothing and has never seen anything, my self-confidence has skyrocketed these days and I feel a sense of accomplishment. I introduce this and that to my little brother. Can't escape very well. Sukingyu was afraid that he would act wild. Xiaobeo, tomorrow you and your uncle will go to Grandpa Ma's place to practice your skills. After Xiaobeo listened, he ran up to Sukingyu, hugged her thigh, rubbed her thigh again and again, and said coquettishly, "Mom, can we play for a few more days?" He saw Sukingyu staring at him. He immediately raised his fist and held out 2 little fingers. "How about those 2 days?" Sukingyu said nothing. He blinked a few times, then put away a finger pitifully. "Is that a good day?" "Mom, you've been gone for so long, can't you stay with Xiaobeo for a few more days? My brother has just come to our house. He doesn't know anyone, and Xiaobeo hasn't finished talking to him yet." Sukingyu was a little helpless. "It's not like you won't come back at night. It gets dark early now, so you'll be back soon. When you come back, you can tell me about it." Xiaobeo refused, holding her thigh and twisting around. Sukingyu was unmoved. Dabeo looked at her. "Mom, where is my brother going?" I forgot to tell Dabeo. My younger brother is going to learn martial arts from the master." Xiaobeo looked proud. "Yes. I'm going to learn martial arts from Grandpa Ma. From now on, Xiaobeo will become a very powerful person. Then he will ride my pony and go to many places he wants to go." When Dabeo heard this, he bit his lip and looked at Sukingyu. Sukingyu looked at him blankly, a little confused. This child is really exquisite, even if he wears ordinary clothes, his brilliance cannot be concealed. A pair of eyes looking at her made people unable to refuse. The whole family was in dire straits. Sukingyu leaned over and touched his head. Does Dabeo want to learn skills with his brother? Dabeo nodded heavily. He wanted to learn martial arts. He also wants to become powerful. Sukingyu looked at him without saying a word. According to her opinion, she doesn't want her child to go out now. This child is so delicate and fair-skinned that he looks different from a mountain child at first glance. But I couldn't bear to reject the child. Maybe it will be okay. For such a young child, growing up in a deep house, he has never seen anyone. Various thoughts ran through Sukingyu's mind many times. I looked at Xiaobeo again. Mom, isn't brother going? Xiaobeo also looked at her. Xiaobeo is very smart and talented, but he just refuses to work hard. Maybe if there is a younger brother who can learn from him, there will be unexpected progress. Seeing that Dabeo had been looking at her, waiting for her decision, he nodded and said, "Okay, my mother and uncle will send you to Grandpa Ma tomorrow to learn your skills." "Okay, Mom is the best." Xiaobeo jumped up happily, pulled Dabeo and ran away. "Grandma, Grandma. Well, my brother is also going to learn Kung Fu with Xiaobeo." Grandma also made a small satchel for him and packed it with delicious food. "Okay. Grandma will do it right away." "Will Dabeo also go learn skills with his brother?" "Yeah." Dabeo nodded excitedly and shyly. "Okay. He's so good. Then study hard, be good, and don't cry." "Okay." Mother Su touched his head. "This kid looks really good. It belongs to her family." "Okay." Dabeo nodded obediently. "Be good. Let's go, Grandma will do it for our Dabeo." Mother Su said and led her two grandsons into the house. The next day, Sukingyu woke up the two children early. After freshening up and having breakfast, under the watch of the family, Si Yuan carried one on his back, and a group of 6 people set off to the training ground in the market town. Along the way, Dabeo couldn't see enough. "It was the first time I stood in a backpack and watched non-stop. Everything I saw was novel." Xiaobeo next to him introduces him like a brother, and keeps talking. "It turned out that there was a big snake coiled on the tree here. Uncle Si Yuan and the others beat it to death. It was so big and long. Later, it went to the market town and was shared among everyone." Seeing Dabeo hiding his head in the basket on his back, Xiaobeo comforted him again. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, there are more people walking now, and the snakes have all run away. Snakes are also afraid of people." When Dabeo heard this, he stretched out his little head to look. "From time to time, I saw small animals jumping from one tree to another, and I kept following them. Those are little squirrels. In winter, they also come out to look for food, and then they hide in tree holes for the winter. They won't come out until next year when it gets warmer." "What does a little squirrel look like?" "It's just a small one, with a long tail, and it can run very fast. I want one, but Uncle Si Yuan has never been able to catch it." Si Yuan sweated on his forehead. "That thing has no meat, so why catch it? It takes a lot of effort." Xiaobeo didn't hesitate and talked about his pony again. "You can't run horses on this mountain road, otherwise I can bring my pony and let the pony carry us, so Uncle Si Yuan doesn't have to carry us. It's so hard." Si Yuan felt warm in his heart. "It's okay, you are not heavy. Uncle likes to carry you on his back." "Thank you, Uncle Si Yuan. When you get old and can't walk anymore, my brother and I will carry you." "Okay, thank you, Xiaobeo. You have to remember this when Uncle can't walk anymore." The two of them teased Xiaobeo. Well, Xiaobeo has a good memory. What a good boy. Sukingnao and Xingyang looked at each other, shook their heads and laughed. "This kid has been walking all the way, and he doesn't know if his mouth is dry or not. When I arrived at the training ground, I told Ma Xian about Dabao's situation. Ma Xian stared at Dabao again and again. To Ma Xian, Sukinjao also said that he was a descendant of the Kui family and had also greeted Ma Mingguan. When Ma Xian heard that he was a child from a family of military commanders, he took Dabao and felt his bones. Not as good as Xiaobao. But this kid has a determined look. As long as he works hard, he should be able to do better than the average person. Then he accepted him. Seeing that Ma Xian was willing to teach him, Dabao solemnly bowed to him as a disciple. Ma Xian was a little shocked. As expected, he is a child from a noble family, strict and well-behaved, with a character that is different from others. Ma Xian nodded to Suqingyu and personally took Dabao and Xiaobao to the training ground. Suqingnao was afraid that Dabao wouldn't adapt, so she went with him. On the training ground, thousands of people lined up neatly, shouting and fisting. Xiaobao hadn't been here for a few days, and his hands and feet were itchy again. He also started to huff and ha-ha, and his little hands and feet also followed suit. Suqingyu couldn't help but laugh when she saw it. This child was so cute. Look at Dabao again. Although he didn't follow the movements, his eyes were fixed on him, fascinated. Ma Xian observed him secretly and nodded towards Suqingyu. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhjiaoye 11U. Chapter 342. Seeing that Dabao was adapting well to Ma Xian, Suqingyu left the training ground and went to the market town. Read. After leaving for a while, she, the president of the Alliance village, had neglected her duties. She notified the village owners early to hold a meeting in the market town, and everyone was there when she arrived. President. Will grow up well. There were 45 village owners sitting in the activity center, which was much larger than before. Suqingnao greeted everyone with a smile and listened to everyone exchange a few words. Today's meeting officially started. The main thing is to pay attention to the newly added village and whether the defense project is done well. It's all done. With the help of the brothers in the village, we dug the gate and trenches. We also dug traps at the entrance to the mountain to hide it. That's good, Suqingyu nodded. In the next few years, the war in the Central Plains will definitely spread to the south. Rioters and refugees will also increase, and Suqingyu doesn't want her good life to be ruined. Therefore, each village must have the ability to protect itself. Next is this year's major food event. This year, each village is more experienced than last year, and the grain output has increased by 10% or 20%. Who wouldn't be happy to have a full stomach? Looking at the current liveliness of the market town, we also know that every family has enough food to eat and money in their pockets. As soon as you have a surplus, you naturally want to spend your time and money. The second and third phases of the market town have been completed, and the area has been greatly expanded, but people are still coming and going on the streets. Now each village has more than one shop. The prosperity of the market town inspired the economic acumen of the mountain people who had been isolated for a long time and were self-sufficient. It inspired them to do business to make money, then spend money, eat well, drink well and use it well. Originally, people in the mountains were secluded in information and were self-sufficient. They would hoard whatever they had for fear of starving, but now everyone is more willing to come to the market towns to exchange what they have, buy and sell, and exchange what I have for what you have. The needs are no longer singular. But when you have money in your pocket, you want to eat and play. In the market town, Wei Fuqiang and Xiangshang doubled the size of the small restaurant. It is still full of people every day. When the Yongfeng saw it, he immediately followed suit and opened a restaurant as well. Afraid that Suqingyu would jump up, Manager Li gave her a 20% bonus. Suqingyu gave 10% to the village leader's activity center and 10% to Ma Xian, so that the brothers could pay more attention to maintaining order in the market town. Many of Ma Xian's men already want to take their families into the mountains. As the population increases, it is estimated that the prosperity of the market town will reach a higher level. After Xinjianzai did not want to leave Yongfeng, Guo led his people to open a pastry shop in the market town. He originally thought that the business would not be great, but he did not expect that the business would be so good. Each village also opened many snack shops, selling various snacks. Business is also very good. The life of the mountain people is getting better, and the faces of the village owners are also radiant. She is willing to eat and wear clothes, and the clothes are obviously of more than one grade. It's no longer dusty. Seeing Sukingyu sizing them up, Zongjai Master and Kun Zhao Master looked at each other with smiles. Doesn't it look good? Yongfeng Hao's cloth is selling fast now. If you buy it late, you won't be able to buy it. Sukingyu nodded. The color is quite bright. I don't know if his son is back, his granddaughter is getting married, and he is about to have a great-grandson. Master Zongjai looks several years younger. Ah, isn't it very bright? Village leader Zhong and Bai Kun quickly stretched out their clothes, feeling a little embarrassed. Better looking than dusty. Looks younger, Sukingyu said hurriedly. The two of them laughed immediately upon hearing this. The president still has vision. Isn't it just money you make that you use to spend it? Do they still have to be buried with him? What life does not bring, death does not take away. Why bother? Other village owners also ridiculed them, saying that they are old and pretty. That means they don't know how to enjoy life. Have all the villages that haven't grown grain this winter stocked up on grain. Sukingnao was worried that other newly joined villages had not yet started growing grain, and were afraid that winter would be difficult. Stocked up, all stocked up. Seeing the president's concern, the 16 newly joined village leaders all replied in unison. Every brother's village is very loyal and sells us grain at a price lower than the market price. Everyone has stocked up a lot this year. Everyone is picking tea, buying tea seeds, and selling mountain products. Every family has extra money, which is better than before. Phew. Yes. In the past, families with a large population in the village cried and said that they could not survive and had to sell their children to others to survive. Now, whichever family has a large population will earn more money. This year, the family with a large population will sell their children to others. All kinds of locals have made a lot of money, and they all plan to build new houses next year, which makes Mr. Ding envious. Fortunately, we joined the alliance, otherwise we would not be able to survive. Many people would die every winter. Sukingyu nodded. Has the winter problem been solved? Yes, yes. Those who can afford it have built kongs, and those who can't afford it have borrowed money from the Lianzai Center to build kongs. We have braziers, baskets, barrels, and tables at home. It should be no problem to have a warm winter. That's good. If you have any problems, go to the nearest brother's village for help. Yes. Sukingyu has set up a poverty relief center in the Lianzai Center. Those who have financial difficulties or difficulties in life can seek help from the Lianzai Center. You can borrow money and issue IAS, guaranteed by the owners of each village. Now that this alliance has been established, she doesn't want anyone to be left behind. Don't worry about those people still not paying. Each village guarantees it, and then the welfare of each village will be deducted. Moreover, there are many employment opportunities in Lianzai, and there is also a shortage of people in the two mines. In fact, there are not many things, but there are many villages. Reporting from each village will take a lot of time, and one day will pass. Finally, after seeing that nothing was left out, Sukingyu announced the adjournment of the meeting. She decided to go to the market town to check again. Now the winter wheat in each village has been planted. Autumn tea has also been harvested, and tea fruits have also been harvested. During this period, everyone mainly picks wax flowers and mountain products. Mountain people carrying burdens can be seen everywhere on the street. The sad look on everyone's face is no longer the same. Now everyone's mental outlook is much better. He was dressed and tidied up, and even though he was carrying a heavy burden, he still had a smile on his face. Sukingyu was very happy. This is what life is like. This is the peaceful life she wants to see. In the market town, various shops are busy selling mountain products. There were long queues at the entrance of Yongfenggao and Xinjianzai shops. One collects mountain goods, and the other collects wax flowers and fresh mushrooms and meat. The mountain people who came out of the two shops happily counted the coins, their faces filled with the joy of the harvest. In front of each food stall, there were many children who were chasing the road, slobbering around the food stall, taking a bite and squinting, enjoying themselves very much. The food stall was very lively. The tea shops and snack shops were also full of people, all of whom were resting or just coming to entertain the boastful mountain people. The shops were bustling with people. Sukingnao visited several of her shops and felt relieved when she saw that the business was very good. She had seen the account books from Wei Fukang in the past 2 days. Now, several shops, including snack shops, tea shops, pastry shops, inns, and bathing centers, can earn 20 or 30 taels a day, which is a lot in a month. The biggest one is the medical center and pharmacy. Coupled with the sauce shop in Renzo, Sukingyu can earn a few thousand taels a month. My wallet is bulging again. But she still had some new ideas in her mind.